Had a lot of hair when I started this book. So just wanted to talk today, hello everybody. Just want to talk today about working with buyers because that's what we're doing, right? That's today's class. Did I get the class right?
Yep.
Okay, good. Buyer, so gosh, wow. I don't know why that just popped into my head. There used to be a saying, I hope I'm not gonna get in trouble for repeating it. Buyers are liars. I don't know why that saying came about. So I guess it's probably putting on your guard about getting to the truth and not wasting your time. So it's good to work with buyers. You want to work with as many buyers as you can. You don't want to work with buyers that are not really buyers. Right? Oh, okay, no problem. So I need to say what there are some things that just puzzle me that still puzzle me. There are people, believe it, that just love the process of being a buyer, writing offers, seeing houses, and never actually doing a deal. They can't do the deal. They just love the process. I guess I'm trying to figure it out. Like there are some people that don't even go into escrow, but then they'll never make their deposit. Like it's crazy. I don't know. So I'm sure we all know people that have to look at every house, right? There are some just people out there, they know every house in the area, they've been through it. As soon as there's an open house, they go, they talk to the agent there. Some people are just naturally like that. They have to know every single house. They have FOMO, like about not knowing about a house in their neighborhood. FOMO, fear of missing out. So we as agents have a limited amount of time. We need to obviously make money for ourselves. And it can be damaging if we work with someone that is just wasting our time, basically. So I've had the opportunity of coaching throughout my career, and I've seen I've met and have relationships with other agents in different markets, and I've seen very active agents that close, anywhere from 60 deals a year on up, hundreds of deals, and they have the same amount of time that we do, right? But they're able to effectively do that many deals, and they do it by not wasting their time, right? So like this, I'm just going to hand this out. I've uploaded some things to my shared resource folder. So there's an agent in Colorado that she works in Denver, and I've talked with her several times. I've been to many coaching sessions with her. She door knocks in Colorado where it's raining a lot. So rain does not stop her. If you're a door knocker and you don't knock when it's raining in Colorado, you're not going to be very successful. So she goes out, she puts her raincoat on, her rain boots, and she goes out and knocks. When she's so the way that she works with buyers is she makes appointments with buyers and gets them to come to the office. She doesn't just take a phone call and start working with a buyer right away. She makes an appointment, just like if we're going to get a listing appointment, right? We're going to go see the house and we're going to prepare a listing presentation and we're going to prepare a listing agreement and bring it to the house. She makes buyers come to the property. Now, if she's dealing with an out of area buyer, and it's gonna be over the phone. Again, she has that telephone appointment. She keeps, what I just handed out is a buyer needs analysis. For people at home, if you have access to my agent resource folder, under contracts and buyer representation, there's a buyer interview folder. So hopefully you can find that. If not, just email me. I'll add it to you. I'll add you to it.
Where do I go to find that shared file? Sorry.
So do you have access to the shared folder?
I believe you sent it to me a week or so ago. I'm not 100% sure though. I thought I had opened it, but I believe it was opening up something else.
So in the meantime, I'll just open it up here so we can all look at it.
I'm not sure.
So.
Just hit the share button.
Thank you very much. I was looking at that TV thinking I was sharing. Okay. So here is a buyers need assessment. Let's see. So, you know, this very active agent keeps in her drawer this buyer needs assessment, and you know, as soon as she gets her buyer on the phone, she'll go through this checklist and just say, you know, are you a first-time home buyer? All of these questions are here to really for us to get a feel of motivation. And this is, again, it's leading up to us getting the buyer to sign a buyer representation agreement, which we'll look at again. We looked at it before, we'll look at it again today. You know, just like we have a seller sign a listing agreement, we can have a buyer sign a listing agreement also. That's the buyer representation agreement. So this is she, I mean, what she says is this is how I work with buyers. I choose to work with buyers that choose to work with me. Like, you're either working with me or you're not. But, you know, there's a lot of agents who don't use the buyer representation agreement. And then they have to pray that when it's time to write that offer, that agent is going to use them to write that offer. I mean, what do you do with your buyer that walks into an open house and just decides to write an offer with a listing agent, right? So there's a conversation that really needs to be had with the buyer that you're going to work your tail off for them and you're going to help them find a property. If on the off chance they happen to see something that you didn't show them and they walk in, you just want to make sure that they're going to use you as their agent, right? It's a fair ask, right? I'm going to be working hard for you, do everything I can to help you. All I'm asking is when it's time to write an offer, you know, we have an agreement that you're going to use me. That's what the buyer representation agreement is in a nutshell. And it basically says the buyer is going to agree to pay for your commission. But if it gets paid for by the seller, which 99.9% of the time it is paid by the seller, then the buyer is off the hook for that. Okay, so if it's a listed property, there is a commission being advertised in the MLS. That's what you're going to get.
What happens if on the buyer's agreement you go with a 3% compensation and the listing only offers 2.5% or 2%?
Right. So technically, that's possible that the buyer could be on the hook for that extra half, and then it's up to you if you want to ask your buyer to actually pay it. Okay. So if you do want it, it is possible to roll that extra half into the loan.
Okay.
It doesn't have to come out of your buyer's pocket. So that's a business decision that you're going to make. And, you know, I want everyone to know it's really easy to work with buyers. Like, this is easy. Okay, buyers are easy. You show a buyer a property and they like it, you write an offer. It's really that easy. I don't want anyone to be scared to actually bring someone to a property and then ask them if they want to write an offer. There might be a little fear of not asking the question because you're afraid they'll say yes. So I don't, right, because then all of a sudden you need to go write a contract, yeah.
Yeah, but I have that experience with like some budget, like I have friends who are my age, like 27, 28.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, like they're like fully committed into like doing that kind of thing, cause I have a buyer right now, he's looking for like a house somewhere in Northridge in the Valley area for like, trying to find something within 1 million or two, but he just got pre-approved and everything.
Good.
And at the same time, he's getting inheritance from his family, that his family is also helping him too.
Okay,
And from there, like, I'm doing the MLS, finding him properties and stuff here and there. And I said, so I always tell him, is there anything that you like, any preference, anything else? And he always said, oh, not right now, market is tight, not right now at the moment. Sometimes I think of like, is this buyer really committed in pursuing it, or you just like trying to like wait to play the long game?
right, so something that you said triggered my thought process.
Yeah.
I might have said it before, I just want to say it again if you haven't heard it. Whenever you're dealing with anyone,
Yeah.
you need to know that they have the money.
Okay.
Most of the time, or I'll say a lot of the time, the money's coming from family.
Yeah.
That is assisting them. And it's important, if the money is coming from family, that you include that family member in your day-to-day showings and assistance finding the property. So here's the fear. You start working with someone for a year, they finally find the property they love, and they call their parent and say, I just found the perfect property. We need money to buy it. And the parent goes, whoa.
Just like that.
Just like
I
Echo.
love that. I love that. Sound effects,
The
perfect.
parent goes, whoa, crazy kid. 60-year-old kid who can't manage their money. What property are you talking about? Let me show it to my agent and get their opinion. And then all of a sudden, it's the parent buying the property with their agent and you're out. Okay. So that's the fear. If you need to know, the first thing I do when I talk to a buyer, like if I have a couple walk in, I need to immediately decide who's the decision maker. Because usually when there's a couple, if there's one of them is the decision maker, it could be 50-50, it's usually not. There's usually one person that makes this.
How do you discern that?
You know,
can't
I think you know, just
Okay.
the way they interact with each
Conversation,
other,
yeah.
yeah. I'm obviously not the decision maker. So I think you can ascertain that pretty quickly. Now, one of the people in the relationship might be the one who tours, but that might not be the one who ultimately makes the finals. So I'm just letting you know, like,
Yeah.
these are things to be aware of. So
course.
in your situation, if there's family involved, find out who the family is. That might be some pushback, because your client may have talked to a lender, but you might have told that lender, I'm getting family assistance. And the lender might have said, okay, based upon what you're telling me, we can do this.
Yeah,
But he might not have actually had the conversation like, we're ready to buy.
exactly. Yeah.
So that's, so we have to constantly get to it's called getting to the truth. And
Okay.
it's asking the next question to find out where the obstacle is. So if the obstacle is he hasn't talked about it with his family member yet, it's up to you to try to find out what's stopping the process.
Stopping him. What's
Yes.
that?
Yeah. Did you have something you want to say?
Yeah, I might have told you this. I have a friend who's in town. She has a condo, or has a friend who's been looking at condos in West LA, 10th Street in Montana.
Okay.
And so we went to this place the other
Close to the
day.
beach.
Huh?
Close to the beach.
Close to the beach. She looks out, she has this wonderful view in a condo that they're renting.
Okay.
I'd say like a half a block south of that is the condo that they want. And we went in there the other day and with the other agent, the selling agent, and took a look around with all the kids and everything like that. And it was built in 1970. So what happens is she's the one who makes the decision on it. She says, I want this view. I want this view for like 2 or 3 years that she's been working with this agent, my friend. And so then we do the tour and I stepped back to watch how she was dealing with it right at the end, the decision time, because they get, she had her aunt there with the kids and took them out of the room and we all had that moment. And she was very good. She was like, you like this, you like this is good. She says, yes, very much so, very much so. I get a call last night. She says, the husband's not wanting, he wants to take a chill for just a little bit. He's the one who was signing off on everything these last 2 years. And she was saying, no, it's not the right view. It's not the right view. It's not the right view. Now that she has the right view, he's pulled back. And it's for financial reasons. He works for Amazon and has something to do with money going into a loan.
I would say anyone that works for Amazon, they're not really feeling stable.
Yeah.
Any
Taking this.
any business right now, it's not a stable. It's not a stable.
So that was kind of an interesting.
I had a call in. I did a radio show last night, but nobody listened to it.
I listened to it.
I missed it.
I recorded it though.
So there was one caller called in and he said, can you address predictions that the market's going to crash next year? So, I started talking about limited inventory and that no one has a crystal ball. The best time to buy a property is now or 20 years ago. A great line. Right? When is a good time to buy a property? No one can time the market. You can have good timing, but that's in hindsight, right? So no one can time the market. Is the stock market going to go up, go down? Is this stock better? Is this stock worse? Like nobody knows. Now, property is a market, just like a commodity, gold, silver, corn. Prices go up, they go down, and they go back up. And over time, property has gone up in value. I had asked Brandon Miller from Fidelity National to prepare something. I have to follow up with him. There was a handout that he gave me years ago that started like 1930, and it showed the average price of a home. And no matter where on the list that you went, it was year by year by year. No matter where you went for the average price, if you went 10 years later, it was higher.
JJ, I have that data for you.
Wow, you have that?
I have it. Yes, I have that. Very
Oh.
detailed.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Did you send it to me today or no?
Yes, I will. I will.
Okay. So, you will send it. Okay. So
Yes.
that was, is this May talking?
Yes, this is May.
So May Shalhoub is with Movement Mortgage. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Yes,
I'm
very
kidding.
good. I trained you well. Ray.
Okay, so one of the things, May sent me some flyers this morning. I put them in our shared folder. Should we go through these, May? You want to talk about them real quick?
Sure, we can. My computer is not working, so I'm working for myself. So let's try. I'll do my best. Yeah. So I sent you can I talk? Yeah. So the first flyer I sent you is about, the one that you have on, it's called the Express Program. The Express Program is anything that is jumbo product, which is anything over 987,300 as a jumbo. You can go through an approval process just like Fannie Freddie, which means you run it through artificial intelligence approval, underwriting approval, and it may ask if it's a self-employed borrower, it may cut the conditions or what we need from the buyer accordingly. Basically, it could ask for 1 year tax return. It may ask only for a verification of employment instead of W-2 pay stubs. So those are really, really good. And it's our own product and the rates on those are amazing. And before dramatically, okay, we had a drop in rate from 2 days ago. I locked somebody at 6.5, interested at 2 points. today is at 0.5 point. So we had a dramatic drop in interest rate, just so you guys know. And I just got another price improvement as of now. So things are happening. I'm not sure. I haven't read the articles this morning, but it looks good. So that's one of the program I sent you. Where are you? Express Jumbo. So the others, there's one that has list all the product I have. Oh, the 3.5% financing down payment. That is what we call the boost program, where Movement Mortgage is actually giving the buyer the down payment. And it's a second mortgage on the property. So you get an FHA loan on the first, and then Movement Mortgage will carry a second for 3.5% down. That's so you don't have to go to the city to get that money, or you don't have to go anywhere. We will do it all internally. That's a new program just came out.
You can get a buyer approved with no money out of their pocket.
They have to pay the closing costs. That's the only thing they have to do. So they don't have any down payment, but they gotta have like 10, 12, maybe $15,000 to close the transaction.
Okay, so just so we know, when we're talking to a buyer, what percentage of their income should their loan cost be? I mean, what do you think they'll get approved for?
So if a client has an income or whatever the income is for their housing expenses, it should not exceed 47% of their gross income. Okay.
Everyone understands. So, and then their housing expense would just be principal, interest, taxes, and insurance.
And mortgage insurance if there is any. And HOA, homeowner association if it's a condo.
Gotcha.
So 47.
47, so they're
47%.
not to exceed 47%.
And then all bills are the income for the
Principal, interest, taxes, insurance,
Whatever the number.
private mortgage insurance. So private mortgage insurance, they'll need what they put less than 20% down?
Anytime they put less than 20% down, they require PMI. Now there is a program that tells you there is no mortgage insurance. The way they do that, there's always mortgage insurance. All they do is how you package the file. It's basically will increase the rate and tell you there is lender paid MI, which means if the rate is at 6.5, they may have to pay 6.6 and not have mortgage insurance. Basically, they embed the pricing into the interest rate. So when you hear that outside in the field, remember that they'll always have, you have to pay it. How do you pay it is a different story, right? It's how you package the file.
Okay.
Now, on FHA, you can go up to 57% debt to income ratio. So if they have a car payment, student loan, anything else, they can go up to 57%. It's crazy. But on conventional, you only can go up to 50. So if your front end ratio 47, you cannot have a lot of other debts.
Okay.
Any questions?
What was
No?
the,
Yes, hey, I've got
Yeah,
a question.
Jimmy?
Yep, hey, May.
Hey, Jimmy.
So if you guys are providing the 3.5 down and then that becomes a second mortgage on it, how does it go in terms of the buyer paying that back over time?
There is, it has a 30-year time or when they refinance, and it doesn't have a prepayment penalty. And I don't remember exactly the rate, but I gotta look it up. Now I'm like drawing blank. There is, the rate is actually, let's just say your first mortgage rate is 6.5. The second will be 2% over that. Okay, and they won't have to pay anything until they pay off the loan. So let's just say 6.5. So it's 8.5 is the rate on the second.
I understand. Thank you.
Okay.
That means not pay anything back.
I was just about to say that. So are they not paying they're not paying toward the down payment rate? until
Correct.
the.
There is no, until they pay off the loan, until they refinance, or if they are making the property a rental or anything like that, they have to pay that loan off.
But your monthly mortgage isn't going toward that, your second at all. So you're not making monthly payments for the second.
No. Same thing like the CalHAFA loan, the state of California loan, they don't have a payment until you pay the loan off.
So it's basically increasing at in an 8%.
So is
Yeah,
it
I mean, you're gonna have to pay it. I mean, you have an option to pay it monthly, or you can pay it whenever you refinance it. It's an
There's no
accumulative
prepayment.
interest.
No prepayment penalty.
No,
So who is this ideal for? Is this for the
okay, so there's
person?
a lot of people that are not, they don't know how to save. They make lots of money, they don't know how to save. And this is almost, you're forcing them to get into a home, because let's just say, you know, the millennium, a lot of them making 200,000, you know, salaries, 100, the wife and 100 him and all that. And that money is going to God knows what. So what they do, it's you almost forcing them to put their money into use. Okay. You're building equity. Now you have a mortgage that you can deduct all the interest you pay into the loan. So your tax deduction is amazing. Every payment you made, all the interest you pay on the mortgage is 100% tax deductible. So if they're paying so much taxes on their income, this will cut back their income dramatically. That's a very good point for you guys to sell when you're, you know, meeting with these new buyers, especially the millennium right now, make about almost 50% of what we sell right now. Either that or the senior citizens, you know, anybody over 60, buying down, or buying the millennium, buying their first home. Those are the two major buyers right now. So if I'm a first-time home buyer and I haven't saved, but I just got out of college and I have very good income, mom and dad can't help me. We're helping them buy the house. Now they have to qualify. It's not like it's a free ride, but it helps them a lot.
I have a question. Is there a maximum income cap on the qualifying for it?
Not on this program.
So I can get it no matter what so there's no maximum income that I have or income threshold where I can't use it?
No, you don't, not on that specific program. If you go to the state of California loans, you have an income limitation, and it's $182,000 for a couple, for one person. Yeah. So there's so many programs, guys, we're missing the boat on that. I'm sorry.
So there's a maximum that they can use?
No. So you ask if the income is any limitation. On this particular program, you do not have an income limitation.
Okay.
If you go to state of California, Los Angeles City, all those other programs that has a down payment assistance, they do have an income limitation.
I think this could be good for actors, potentially musicians also, who get these big lump sum payments for their job. And so at the time of buying, they may not have the capital and could leverage this, this secondary mortgage, but then can pay it off. Like they know that they have a check coming in, they know that they're about to do a movie. And so they're going to get this big lump sum and they can pay it off quickly. That way they're in the mortgage, they're in the house.
You want to clarify that? So are they, well, hold on. Are they able to pay off at any time or only during refinancing or sale?
No, they can pay off anytime. Okay, so there is new government agencies rules that you cannot put on any owner occupied property any prepayment penalty. That came out in 07, 08 because to protect buyers. So anytime you're selling or dealing with any buyer, whether it's first time buyer or if they're gonna occupy the property, it's illegal to put any prepayment penalty on these loans.
Is there a payment?
Even if they're hard money loans.
Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, is that clear?
Oh, what doesn't make sense?
The fact that there is no payment on the second mortgage, but yet there is an interest rate on the second mortgage.
Yeah, it's.
Yes, because once it is gonna be due at time of closing. Now, they can choose to pay it monthly or they can choose to pay it whenever
there-
it's due.
That payments are required before, like, is it forever? I mean,
No,
there's-
they have a balloon payment. I think they have after 10 years, you have to pay it on that second. Yeah, so there is a balloon payment. So you can choose to pay monthly because we will qualify him based on a payment on the second.
Technically, they could go 10 years without paying anything on.
Correct,
This
but they at some point they have to pay it after 10 years.
Very responsible, sir.
Very responsible, right?
Any other questions for May?
It's not for artists.
The expanded access program is different, or that's what you're talking about?
What is it? I'm sorry.
Access program,
I don't hear the question. What was the question?
expanded access program. Expanded access program.
JJ, the mic is.
The standard access, that's,
The extended access program.
oh, the expanded access, Expanded access is the, hold on, it's the loan that we go, it's the same thing as the Jumbo Express, basically. These are the loan that is a little bit what they call a hard money loans. Okay, and they have a couple of different programs to that, and we use Goldman Sachs for them. Basically, you can go at 10%, depending on the FICO score, you can go either 10% or 15%. You can go with bank statement loan. Let's just say somebody just started a business a year ago and he hasn't filed taxes. You can go by 12 months bank statement. Let's just say somebody has a job and also has his own business. You can combine two income. Now, the rates on those, you would think they are worse than the traditional rate. And I think I mentioned that yesterday in the meeting. They're not. They're almost at 7.25% interest rate. And they allow you to go 30-year fixed. You can do owner occupied. You can do a rental property. So there is a program called the debt service ratio. And these are for investment property where you really don't have to show any income, as long as the mortgage payment, taxes, and insurance is covered by the rental income, which means if I am renting for $5,000, I cannot have my mortgage payment more than $5,000. And the loan is priced based on the percentage of that. So let's just say it's $4,000 mortgage payment and my rent is $5,000. So I have a lot of room here. I'm making money. My rate will be better if it was barely break even. So those programs are what we call now the non-QM, which is they're not the Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac program. You can combine different income. You can take the self-employed, add it with the regular W-2 income, or you can do no income documentation for rental. So there is a lot of program under the expanded access. So these are Goldman Sachs loans. So they're actually, and we underwrite under their guidelines, and we actually service these loans. So it's our own program. We have a good relationship with Goldman Sachs. So there's two parts to this program. One is the owner occupied and one in the investment, right? The investment can go as debt service ratio, which is no income at all, zero, just the rent from the property to cover the mortgage. And the second segment of that is the owner occupied, which is people that can't show 2 years history of employment or can't show, or their debt to income ratio is high. Because if you look at the flyer, it says documentation up to 50% debt to income ratios, which means because more in a traditional way, we only go up to 45. So this helps a lot, right? And those programs are available for 30-year fix or interest only loan. There's, there's so much program out there that until I know the logistic, what's going on for each buyer of yours, I can fit them into specific programs. And those are in-house underwriting. So I can do it in 24 hours.
You mentioned the program I want to ask you about.
Go ahead.
If we find a property that the rent will cover the mortgage, and the buyer doesn't have to come out of pocket with any money except closing costs?
No. The qualification, these are called the DSCR program, which is the debt service ratio. What they don't have to come up with is any income documentation, okay? They do have to have their down payment, they do have to have reserves, and the reserve depends on their FICO score, and they do have to have closing costs and everything. Yeah, no, this is one program that we need all the down payment, the money is needed on that.
What's your max LTV on DSCR?
Yeah, it is 80% in some instances, and most likely 75 if you want to be safe, but there are 80%, 20% down.
So when we're talking to buyers for income property, they should expect to have a down payment.
I would go with 25% to be on the safe side, but sometimes we can do 20.
Okay, 'cause I've seen 30. I haven't seen less than 30 in a long time. So you can do less than 30 for an income property.
Yes, you can. 25% is the norm. I don't know why don't you have that. 25% is the norm on investment, but it all depends. Like sometimes I have to cut the loan back because the rental income is not there. You following me? So if the rental income is there, then you can go 20% and you can go 25. But remember, the loan to value makes a difference in the rate. So sometimes they're not gonna, they don't want to go that way. You know what I mean?
Like 35%, right?
Okay, very good.
Put it down.
Thank you, May.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, May.
Do you guys need me to send more information on any of the program? Just text me or email me.
Yeah, anything you send me, I'm going to include in our shared folder.
Okay. All right, great.
So
I'm downloading right now this expanded program. So you guys need on the rental property, the minimum down.
okay, great.
I'm just looking at the access. So you're looking at investment.
That's okay.
So on, yeah, I'll get back to you guys on that if you need it.
So the reason that it's important to have constant conversations with the lenders is that we are going to have these conversations with buyers that walk into our open houses or anyone we're talking to. Everyone's always going to ask you, what's the interest rate? What's going on in lending right now? But you can convert someone into a buyer just by talking to them about buying. Like, you talk about people's financial, where they are financially right now, and just having that conversation. Like, I often have a conversation with someone who rents about needing to buy something to lock in their cost of living. So you can be renting something in rent control. And then you've basically locked your cost of living in a rent control property. But what happens if you're single? I'm just as one situation. If you're single in a rent control property and you meet a significant other, technically that significant other, if they spend so much time, even if they start sleeping over, and the landlord can basically give you a 3-day notice and kick you out. So if they're not on the lease, which obviously they weren't, you have to make a decision now between your significant other and your rent control property.
Rent control.
So,
Which one has the better?
which one is better, right? Which one has the better long-term outlook?
And if you're in a rent control property and the landlord finds out, they will exercise it because you're probably below market value.
So, yeah, so
Exactly. They do that to me, yeah.
a landlord is in business. I used to manage property for someone. I had someone who wanted to accumulate income properties. He, as a new income property buyer, he didn't have anyone managing. We in this company, we don't allow property management because there's so much liability to it. So you do have to you do have to sign like a waiver with the company if you want to do property management. You can't, the company there has to be a liability waiver. You have to have separate E&O insurance for property management. So I'm glad I got to have that experience, but I learned that if you're in the business of owning income property, it's your business to maximize rents. That's your business. And, you know, it's something to be nice to tenants. And I've met people who have never raised their rents in 30 years, right? And what ends up happening is either those people are getting close to retirement and they want to sell the building and now retire off that, or they pass away and the kids now inherit a building where the rents are 30 years old, right? And the building is not worth anything because the rents are so low. If you're in the business of owning rental property, you have to do your best to maximize rents. That's your business. Your business, the value of the property goes up based upon the rents. So unfortunately, it creates a scenario in rent control where you know, there's some choices you're gonna have to make as a landlord. Do you want to be the nice landlord or do you want to be the firm landlord? In California, it's very tenant biased because California has recognized that the cost of living keeps going up. California does not want a problem where no one can afford to live here anymore and then everyone moves away. They don't want that, which is happening but that's happening because of inflation.
Yeah.
So if rental prices keep climbing like they are, you know, it just gets to a point where you can't afford to live here. And so California, you know, it's an issue. What does California do? So they instituted rent control. They've now instituted rent control on properties that are not subject to rent control. Even if you own a single family in the condo, which is not subject to rent control, you now are. You can't raise your rents more than 10% or I know there's 5%, 8.8%, 10%. There's different scenarios. If you do raise your rent past a certain amount, you may have to pay basically like a free month or something. There's relocation amounts. The issue is really, when it comes down to it, the issue is supply and demand. When you fly a plane over Los Angeles, it's very flat. Like it's, according to Zillow, over half the LA County is single family homes.
Wow.
If you fly into any other city, there are tall buildings everywhere. Like we only have tall buildings downtown, Wilshire Corridor, Century City. That's it. And it's not a lot. I went to Miami. And like here, you drive down Wilshire Boulevard, you have all these high rises, right, of residential condos. And it's this long, you know, between UCLA and Beverly Hills, you have buildings along Wilshire Boulevard. In Miami, oh my gosh, their buildings put us to shame here, and it's just building after building for miles, just high-rise buildings. I mean, any city, you just fly into anywhere, you know, they have a lot of buildings, we don't. So the issue for us is restrictive zoning. You know, we have height restrictions on a lot of stuff. If you're in a single family area, R1, you can have one residence on that land. They have instituted ADUs now where you can convert a garage into a legal dwelling, but it's just not enough. I mean, we need a lot more. Yeah.
So in a tenant-friendly state like this is, how do you enforce, so given the scenario that you gave, right? Rent control property, tenants live there that aren't on the lease. How do you enforce that?
So a landlord that allows someone not on the lease to occupy the property for a period of time, whether it be 2 months, 3 months, if they're aware of it and they let it happen, that person might be assumed to be the new tenant.
It's usually like 30 days. 30 days of continuous That's
30
continuous, right? Yeah.
30 days of continuous occupancy creates immediate tenancy.
So, and also, you know, a landlord has to be very careful about who they collect the rent check from. You don't want to make sure the check you're getting has the matching name of the tenant.
Okay.
Because if you start accepting checks from someone who's not on the tenant, they might automatically become a tenant as soon as that check's deposited.
Okay.
You know what scares me? A lot of leases, the landlords want to collect the rent electronically.
Why is that scary?
It's scary because they can make partial rent payments. And normally, if you are a check receiver, you can refuse it, you can return it. If money gets deposited directly to your account and it's less than the amount, you can't refuse it. I mean, I guess you could send it back, but it's different than just declining to accept a check that's not the full amount. Yeah.
But what's wrong with that if you're getting the full amount?
Because they might have an argument that you're accepting less than the rent now.
If nothing else, it definitely protects you from eviction. So if you're on the edge of like about to be kicked out because you haven't paid your rent and your landlord has been accepting cell payments from you, and you send him in $100 for your next month's rent, he can call you all he wants. He can say like, hey, I need the full rent, but if he's accepted in $1,
Yeah.
tenancy starts over for that month. He can't evict you until 30 days.
It's just concerning because I see it a lot, electronic payments. It's concerning. And what if that electronic payment comes from someone else? And you're the landlord.
They
and you-
accepted it, yeah.
As the landlord, you might not want to give the money back because you want the rent. You got to make your mortgage payment. All right, so it does subject the landlord to an issue where they might have forever tenants and rent control problem.
Checks?
Checks, I know, checks. So,
It opens up a can of worms.
so
It's the.
I have a client who is a CAR attorney and she collects her money electronically. But,
That's what I
you
did.
know,
I thought that was.
so I like, and she does it. But you know,
You can institute a paywall. So there is a company that will basically create an account for you. You
like an escrow.
Yeah, so like it's sort of like the mini escrow account where if you have somebody, it's what most apartment buildings use, where you can go online and you can pay your rent like via whatever electronic method they have online. You're not actually sending the money to the landlord, you're sending your money to an account. And then they have to go in and manually accept it, because then they can refuse it and say they have gotten money. Good to know. To avoid that, but they cost a lot.
Same as apartment.com because it gives the landlord this option that they can set up the amount there and people going like the tenant going through that apartment.com and paying over there.
I think apartment.com is still just like a direct payment. I'm not sure. I've only seen it as a third party kind of thing, but it might be. But yeah, it's a way where basically instead of getting a direct payment like Zelle, it's a way for them to pay electronically because it is more convenient, but it gives you the right of refusal so that you don't end up in that situation where you've created new tenancy or you're accepting money from somebody who doesn't come into it. And also technically the really good ones technically let them pay via credit card, which you're really not supposed to do. I think that's really why it was invented, is because it lets tenants pay via credit card, which I think depending on how you accept the money is actually like illegal. But I'm not sure about that.
During COVID, when it was rough, I tried to pay regular bill.
Yeah.
I've got a question as I see as you're going over buyer forms here. Do you have a standard practice where, let's say you meet with the buyer, you have the consultation, everything goes good. They say that they'll be reaching out to their lender, or you obviously refer your 3 lenders, of course. They say, oh yeah, I'll be reaching out to them. Is there a certain amount of time that you allow to go by? Obviously, we're always following up, is there anything that we can help? Would you like us to introduce you guys, etc.? Is there a number of time that you allow to go by where you make the conclusion that, okay, they just must not be serious?
So, okay, so that then, we're talking about the buyer needs assessment right now. So this is the form that you pull out. I have a conversation with a buyer. I might have that conversation. You're never gonna get 100% of this list. You're gonna get maybe 90, 95%. If I show, you know, where I'm going with this is, if I'm showing you a property that meets 95% of your criteria, are you gonna write a deposit check today? I can, you know, I need to make money. I can only work with someone who's ready to do business now, right? That's where my attention is going. So if I'm showing them what they wanted to see and they're not buying, something's wrong. You know, are they gonna have an excuse for every single property that I show them? You know, that's the question. And again, this has to do also with how many leads you have. So the first thing we all need to do is figure out how we're gonna get lots and lots of leads. Because when you have a lot of leads, you will have a lot of business. If you only have a few leads, you're hoping that one of those leads turns into business, and it might not. When you're working with, so ideally, just think big. You want to have 50 people that you're in constant contact with that are ready, willing, and able to do business in the next anywhere from 30 to 90 days. So if you're always talking to 50 people that are looking to do business within the next 90 days, you're gonna have a ton of business. That's called your pipeline. What's in your pipeline? Let's just go through this needs assessment and see where it goes. So obviously names, this is important, you know, awesome. Who are the buyers? You know, and then contact information, where they currently live. If they're local, what are the best times to view a home? If they're not local, when are you coming into town? Are you a first-time home buyer? Yes or no? Who will be involved in the first purchase decision? Who will be on title? So, you know, that's all at that beginning of the conversation. And what's your time frame? So, you know, these questions might seem obvious, but they need to get asked. You know, that's why this checklist exists. And this is not a static checklist. You know, everyone should make their own checklist, right? So, but this is a good guide. What's your timing? And I want to know what the motivation for that timing is. If I'm talking to someone right now, when it's July 12th today, I know school starts at the end of August, beginning of September. Do they need to be in the home before that? Or do they need to register for school before that? Like, do we need to buy right this second? And then if they hem and haw, you know, there's you're gonna get a lot of information from this timing question. Yeah. And then you want to know why or how that looks. Financial information, what price did you have in mind? Have you been pre-approved yet? If someone says, I'm not worried about it, it could be, may not be. Most of the people that I deal with, I know who they are. I deal with a lot of parents that are buying for their children. You know, this is, if you're dealing with someone you don't know, then you don't know. You need them to, and my guide to any buyer is, let's get you talking to a lender. The lender is going to call you after the lender talks with the buyer and tell you what your buyer is approved for. The lender wants to make business, right? The lender wants to, I use the lender to my advantage. So if I don't want to have that financial conversation personally with my buyer, like it might be a little uncomfortable, I have the lender do it. The lender is going to have the financial conversation. And then the lender is going to tell me what I should be looking for. It might be a lot more than we thought, right? Someone might have said, I want to look for properties that are $1 million. And all of a sudden the lender says they should be buying 2 million, 2.5 million. So I am going to refer a good lender to them, because no money, no honey.
I just emailed you the historic of investment on property from 1941 until now.
Amazing, thank you. I'll add it to the folder, thank you.
It's in the email.
That's a great conversation with any buyer. Because buyers are afraid, should I buy now or not? And that's exactly when you take that out. Do you have access to my shared folder? No, it's not. I handed out everything I printed, but I'll make sure that you get it. Send me off your bus. Sure. Lender contact information, again, this is when you give that. How much do you have for down payment? What is your current monthly payment? Again, if you're not comfortable having this conversation, the lender can absolutely do this. Are you comfortable with what you're currently paying for your mortgage? If not, what do you want to pay? Okay, now we talk about ideal location. City, neighborhood, schools. What's important? Are neighborhood amenities important for you? Do you need to be close to a park? Is there anyone that needs to be, near a bus stop? Do you can have help in the house that needs access to transportation that may not have a car? Yeah, anything. If you're showing condos have HOA dues, right? What are they comfortable paying? There are some condos that have 3,000 a month HOA dues. And some have 200 a month HOA dues. The danger in being in a very low HOA place is they don't have a reserve. And if there's an emergency repair needed at the property, everyone's going to get assessed and everyone's going to have to write a check for it. If the property has reserves, then they can absorb the hit to whatever the major repair is. The lender is also going to be looking at that to make sure that the buyer can cover it if they need to. A lender is probably going to really look carefully if the building has no reserve. What kind of home are you looking for? Single family home, multifamily, townhome, condo. The difference between a townhome and a condo, a townhome has no shared floor or ceiling. A townhome will only have shared walls, but no one above and no one below. Oh. That's the difference between a townhome and a condo. Duplex is two units. Other would be a triplex, 3 units, fourplex, 4 units. Minimum square footage. These are conversations that is very important to ask. Can you live in 1,000 square feet? Do you need more than that? How many bedrooms do you need? How many bathrooms? I see places that have 1 bathroom. That if you have 1 bathroom, your guests are going to be using that bathroom. You just have to think about it.
1 bathroom, you will eventually be divorced. I tell people that all the time.
A really good play is to get a condo that is like 2 bed, 1 bath and create an extra half bath if you can. Somehow I see a lot of condos around LA that have 2 beds and a bath and there's like a bar area. Sometimes that bar area can be made into a powder room.
Especially if they're built in the 70s.
Yeah, there's a lot of those. There's a lot.
That's what ours is.
Yeah.
We have a separate bathroom as you walk in.
Okay,
That's,
So the issue with bathrooms is drains. That's really the big issue because plumbing is easy to route through walls. Drains are not.
Yeah.
Because the drain pipe is thick. It's a big pipe. There's an issue right now with office buildings being vacant. People are used to working from home, COVID, not coming back to the office. Companies are not leasing space that they were. I think there's an opportunity there for office buildings. If you guys are thinking anywhere in commercial, or you come across an office building that's very vacant, take a look at it. Don't be afraid to take a look at it. There are a lot of investors that would be interested to buy an office building and make condos out of it. The issue is drainage. So a lot of office buildings are built where you'll have like an elevator in the center and maybe a couple of bathrooms, and then all the offices share those bathrooms in the center. And the offices might have sinks, but there's no big drains for bathrooms. If you can figure out, or you see a building that maybe bathrooms could be done, it's just something to keep in your mind.
I've seen schools turn into apartment buildings.
Wow.
In DC, my brother was living in one. It was an old high school.
In DC?
In the Washington, no, I'm sorry, Baltimore. Baltimore, yeah. But it was an old high school and it was now nice.
I actually read an article about something like that. Someone bought a school and did that.
So space, easier to do it with a school than it would be an office because you have all the walls already put up. The cost of construction.
Every classroom is a unit, you know? Yeah.
Okay, so
Hey,
here's,
JJ, I have a
Yes.
quick question. Hi, it's Cheryl. So can you go back to HOA fees for a moment? So working with a client, she's a little all over the place with what she wants to spend. But as you said, some HOAs are 500 a month she's looking at with me. Some are $1,588 a month, 1 bed, 2 bath. What do you, and I live in Beverly Hills and unfortunately I'm renting right now, and the HOA fee in my building, small building, is $720 a month, which I think seems low. Is that low? Because I don't think the building has a lot of reserve, but I'm just curious what you think is low.
so
There's
there's a lot of things in that question.
I know. Sorry.
What I think is low may be high to someone else.
Hypothetically.
I have seen condos that have $280 to $300 HOA fees. Now, out of that HOA fee, there's usually a water bill that gets paid by the HOA.
Yes.
So if I own a house or I'm a tenant in a house, I will probably be the one paying the utilities. The water bill alone could exceed that. So that's, usually a tenant doesn't pay the HOA fee, right? The landlord would.
Correct.
So the landlord, as a tenant, you're saving a ton of money on water. Water is very expensive. Now, as we start going up in the HOA fee, basically what a building is supposed to do, a properly managed building, is supposed to have an assessment, a reserve assessment.
Correct.
Company comes in, they look at everything in the building, and this is important for your buyers. There's a reserve assessment. When do things need to get replaced? The building has one giant boiler or the roof or painted, repairs. There's a company that comes in and they look at everything and they say, this has 10 years, this has 5 years, this has a 9-year lifespan. And then they budget how much money needs to be collected every month in order to pay those expected expenses. So that has to do with the reserve and building the reserve account. Now, there are other buildings that have dormant.
Right.
Full service buildings. And there are buildings that have a lot of employees.
Right.
So that's where these assessments are coming in. Not the assessments, the HOA fees are going up. So the more services the building has, the more the HOA is going to be. Does the building have earthquake insurance?
Yeah.
It's going to be another added expense.
I'd like to also add too, reserves are very important. I was dealing with a client. We were on a condo. Their finance.
Wait. Can JJ just finish answering my question for a second, please?
Of course. Yep.
Thanks, Jimmy.
No.
So
Yes,
JJ,
sure.
I guess my question is, if it is a full service building and you get concierge, doorman, pool, gym, so on and so on, I'm assuming, of course, the HOA fees would be much higher. If you're right.
Those kind of amenities offered are probably not going to be less than $1,500 a month.
Right. Okay. And living in a building with 18 units, prime location, of course, parking in a garage, elevator, AC, all of that is, I guess I'm trying to figure out, is $720 a month enough to have in a reserve? Because this building does have issues. And
$720
go ahead.
is not enough to cover a full service building.
No, not a full service building.
Is it enough? So it depends on what their current reserves are
All right,
and how old the building is and what state of repair it's in, but $720 a month. How much are they able to put away after they pay the water bill and the expenses?
right.
So there doesn't seem like there's enough money to be building reserves.
Okay, and is there any way of finding out what a building does have in reserve if I don't want to ask the president of the board?
There is. So is it it's an apartment building or it's a condo building?
Condo.
Condos. As an agent, I would
Yes.
go into the MLS.
Yep,
I would find the most recently sold unit. And
okay,
I would contact the listing agent or the buyer's agent. They have a copy of the HOA documents.
okay,
And they all have a copy of the budget for the building.
okay.
I would request for them. Hopefully one of them will share it with you. As an
Okay.
agent, you don't need to tell them that you live in the building. As an
Okay.
agent,
All right,
can you share it, please?
okay, all right. Because my landlord is giving me an opportunity to do a presentation for a listing agreement in the next few weeks. And I'd like to know I'd like to know more than I already know from living here for 5 years.
So tomorrow we are talking about the listing presentation. And then that's one of the questions on a listing appointment is asking about the reserves and the HOA.
So I have a client tomorrow at 11:15. Do you have this on YouTube or anything? Or is there a way to download it to review?
I do have something I can send you, yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Sorry, Jimmy. Just had to get that all out.
Send me a text so I don't forget.
All right, doing it now. Thank you.
Jimmy, you had a question?
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, Cheryl, as well.
No worries. No
You
worries.
know, I just wanted to share that I had a deal and the buyer, we were going in conventional on a condo because DTI, and if worse came to worse, we were gonna go FHA for a spot approval. That deal, we were unsuccessful because there wasn't enough reserves in the account in the condo association, and the deal wasn't able to go through. So I just wanted to mention finding out reserves as soon as possible can save a lot of time when it comes to understanding if a property is going to ultimately work out. That's all.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
Jimmy, did you try to go with a non-warrantable condo?
A non-warrantable? What do you mean?
So some lenders will take non-warrantable condos that have such issues as lack of reserve.
Got it. We didn't look into that specifically, so I can't say that we did look into it.
Talk about it after class.
Sure, great.
So again, it's just important who your lender is and how many programs they have available to them. If you're dealing with a direct lender like Chase or Wells Fargo, Union Bank, Citibank, they have very specific criteria of what they'll lend on. And it's possible your client is just not going to get approved for so many reasons. It's great to deal with someone who has a whole portfolio of options of what different programs they have available.
You mentioned a full service building. What does all of that entail?
A full service building means there's someone at the door, usually behind a desk, to let people in, monitors, it's a safe building, collect packages, maybe valet parking. So all Wilshire corridor, all those buildings, I'm sure most of them have probably maybe 70% of them have earthquake insurance. Some don't. A lot of these buildings are on rollers. Pretty cool. Wow. Okay, so we're talking about must-haves. So here, this is when I have the conversation. What backyards are like scarce around here. Like a nice backyard And some people have to have a backyard, so that's what you know you're looking at. You're looking for.
Review.
Appliances, stainless white or black, I'm not sure I would ask the client that. You can. That's really not a big deal, but you know what?
That's a little thorough.
It's very thorough. Garage, one car, two cars anymore. Might have a client who has a car collection. Then the conversation is gonna be, let's not concentrate on that, because I'll find you storage for your car, right? I'll find you a place to store your vehicles. That's a separate conversation. I don't want them to choose their house based upon that. I'll never find it. Parking is a situation.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't want to do the impossible. I want to solve the problem. Trying to find a house that can park 5 cars, that's not as easy. Pool, do they have to have a pool? Do they not want a pool? And then again, if they need a pool, you might be looking for a property that has a pool or can accommodate a pool, room for a pool, right? So just things to keep in mind. Single story. Wow. So this is an opportunity for maybe elderly people that don't want to have stairs. There are a lot of elderly people that have 2-story houses. All the bedrooms are upstairs. They can't use stairs anymore. This is an opportunity to sell their house and get them into a single story or into a condo. That's no matter. Any other special requirements or must-haves? Condition of property. Do you want a brand new construction property? Will you take a fixer? Are you up for a project? So these are the right questions, conversation to have with any buyer. So that needs analysis is in the share folder. And again, you can modify it, tweak it, however, always have it ready, right? Okay, so any questions on anything working with buyers so far? I don't want to bore you guys, I want to add value here. I don't want anyone to be afraid of working with a buyer. Just out of fear that you're gonna have to write a contract, have to write an offer. So some people think they're gonna have to write their offer with the buyer. I never write my offer with the buyer. I always come back to my office, I go to my computer, I prepare the offer on my own, and then I email it to them for signature, DocuSign. So if you're in a situation, after every showing, just say, want to write an offer on this property? And yes, fantastic. The next question, you're gonna say to them, I'm gonna go back to my computer and send you comps so we can discuss how much the offer price should be. And then they're out of your hair, you can go, you can relax it at your computer, call me, I'll help you. We will do comps, and then we'll write the offer and send it to the signature. Okay, and then I'll help you until you can do it on your own. And then you'll send me offers to review, I'll review them. We'll go from there. So don't be afraid for them to say, yes, I want to write on.
So after the comp, what do you recommend to how much?
So my pricing is going to be, it's also going to be talking to the listing agent. So I'm going to be calling the listing agent. I'm going to say, thank you so much for your time today. My buyer really wants this property. Now, my goal is not to get my buyer the best price. I don't want, that's not my job. My job is to get the deal. No deal, no money, no deal, no property. No money, no property, nothing. No deal, nothing. My job is to get the deal.
Exactly. No, none.
My job is to get the deal, not to get my buyer the best price. If I have a listing, my job is to get the seller the most money. But if I have a buyer, my job is to get them the property. I will educate my buyer of what similar properties have sold for. Based upon that, and based upon my conversation with the listing agent, we will decide what we should go in at. Right? Together, we'll talk about it. And then now, sometimes you will have a situation where the listing agent is not giving you any feedback or guidance on pricing. Very often. It's up to you to try to really pry out information out of that listing agent where you need to be. A conversation you might have with a listing agent is, well, if we write for this much, can we get an acceptance? And then, they might laugh and whatever, say, well, if we offer this much, would we get an acceptance? And you're just constantly pushing and trying to get a number. It might get to the point where they're like, just right? So.
Can you elaborate more on not your job to get the best price, but to get
Yes,
something?
so if we don't get the property, then we have nothing. So I would say let's do our best to get the property. It's important for me to convey to the listing agent that if they select my buyer, we're gonna do this deal. So as a listing agent, I don't want to accept an offer from someone that is gonna back out. All of a sudden, I have all these buyers, it's a fresh listing, it's got the excitement around it. I go into escrow with someone and then they back out. Now my property's going back on the market. Everyone's gonna say, why did the first buyer back out? What's wrong with the property? It sort of puts a little,
Yeah.
so.
Sorry, because this literally just happened to me yesterday. And to explain just how important this is, the first thing that your buyer is really gonna say is, we were looking at a property as 1.7 mil. He was like, oh, do you think we can get it for 1.6? Every buyer is gonna say, how low can we write as opposed to what we need to write at. I had to tell him very specifically, like, can you get it? He was like, can we get it for like 1.6? I was like, it depends on how many offers they have and where they're at right now on the market. I called the listing agent. It was a listing agent that didn't want to give me any information. So I did exactly what JJ just said. Like, okay, well, if I write at this number, do we get an escrow? And they're like, well, that's, we have offers at asking and this and that. And what the listing agent cares about more than anything else is exactly what he just said. He wants to work. You and the listing agent are partners in every single transaction. So don't think for a second that you're enemies. His job and my job is to get the deal closed. So and this guy had fallen out of escrow. My whole conveyance to him was, look, man, you and I are working on this transaction together. You got a client to control, I got a client to control. And at the end of the day, we're both trying to get to the finish line of recording. So this is what I want to do. I want to do A, B, C, D, X, Y, Z. Does that get us done? Does that make it happen? He found in me a person who was like, okay, yes, you're working toward a shared goal here. I got all the information that I wanted. I could go back to that number. I went back to the client. I told him, this is the number we write at that'll get us an escrow tomorrow. There was nothing else to it. And it was $25,000 over asking because they had an offer at asking.
So there's techniques to get the property. I mean, you can, depending on how aggressive your buyer wants to be, I mean, you can write an offer and release money to the seller immediately upon acceptance. You can release it non-refundable immediately upon acceptance. I mean, if your client really wants a property and there does not want to be multiple offers and wants it, there are ways, right? Now, it's your buyer's comfort level. Are they willing to risk that deposit and walk away without it if something comes up that they are not happy with? They can't close. So there's risk, but there are ways to make a deal. A seller will go for a sure thing if it's an attractive offer, right?
You just broke it down.
So right now, I have a buyer that's probably texting me. They want to write an offer for $7 million on a property that's worth $9 million.
Yeah.
They can afford the 9 million or 10. They can afford it, but they want to write for 7, and it's a multiple offer. Now I have
Asking price?
the asking price is, they priced it low at 8.
8. Uh-huh.
Okay. So
What's it worth?
it's
9.
probably worth 9.5.
Okay.
Probably. So this client wants to write at 7.
Uh-huh.
All right, so here's my challenge. Do I write the offer?
No.
Yes.
Yes.
Here's
Yes.
why. I'm having a conversation with the listing agent that I know it's low. I know it is. My buyer can afford it. Here are all the reasons that if we get the deal, they'll stay in it. And all we're asking for is a counteroffer. By conversation, you're probably going to get a great offer that you're going to want to run with. Just give me a chance and give me a counter that you'll take me and either we're in, we're out. Your job is to get the seller the most, right?
Yeah.
And the best terms, right? Just give me a chance to be that person. I know we're low. Just give me that chance. That's all I'm asking for.
And when they counter you with their price or no?
Yeah, sometimes, I mean,
No, for this,
I'm asking for one. I'm
but
like,
they don't usually do
I'm
it.
asking for it. Give me on paper what I can get this
Right.
property.
You're waiting for the,
JJ is
wait for
quite
the
literally,
counter.
JJ is quite literally setting himself up to be the other agent
Yes.
who that person knows is gonna close. So he's gonna write the counter and give him the number.
Right.
Like, all right, JJ, you're the agent, you're the guy.
That's what I'm asking.
I wanna work with you. Here's the
That's what I'm
number.
asking for. I'm telling him all the reasons why my client will do this deal if they get selected. Right,
Like, it doesn't work to write low and not call the agent.
right. If you're right,
Then you're not gonna
So
get a
here's
call.
what happens as a listing agent. I put a property on the market at a great price. I get tons of offers. Some are gonna be low, some are gonna be at ask, and a few are gonna be high. Some are gonna have pre-approvals and proof of funds. Some are not gonna come with letters from the lender and proof of funds. The ones that don't have the pre-approvals and proof of funds go in that pile over there. The ones that have the proof of funds and the lender go here. And then the ones that are the highest offers are the ones that are getting my attention. What are the terms? How many day escrow? How long do they need for inspections? And those are really the people I'm looking at, talking to, their agents. Now I'm having a conversation with those agents. The other people, they're gonna get counters maybe, based upon these offers here. So the way I'm gonna counter them is the people that have written the highest, I will probably give them a counter highest and best. And the other people that have lower prices, I'll probably give them actual numbers. With a minimum. So. That's strategy.
Have you won over offers that way, what you just described to us?
I,
Like, has it really
the
worked?
most important thing for me is the conversation with the listing agent. Letting them know that if they take my buyer, we're in it to win it. We're gonna get it and we're gonna stay in the deal and have an easy close. Now, once we have an acceptance, all cards are off the table. Like, I'm kidding. Like, once we have an acceptance letter, we're gonna do inspections. It's gonna be the normal process. We're gonna do inspections. My buyer's gonna review the inspections. And decide whether they wanna move forward. And that's it. If they wanna back out, it's gonna be a really sincere apology for me. And hopefully it doesn't happen. But sometimes life happens. But I have a million reasons why my client will do that. So that's where I'm coming from.
So I don't know, like the people same as this listing, I know this is a strategy. Usually the listing agent price it lower than the one, for example, this
Yeah.
one, it's the market price is 9.5, for example, and they did it 8.
Yes.
So when your buyer wants to pay for it, especially these people wants to put, because of this interest rate, they want to do lower, making lower offer. So if you go up over asking price, now I have been in this situation, they are thinking like we cannot get them a good price because in their mind, our job is to get them the good price. When we cannot.
So then they're risking losing the property. So here's my conversation with a buyer, and it's multiple offers. I say to them, we need to come in with a price or we're not getting this property. The listing agent told me that there's no more negotiations in 2 days. Like, they're making a decision.
But the problem is they are thinking they are paying over.
I understand. So my conversation is, if you write an offer for this much money that you're saying to me right now, and you lose the property to someone that paid 10,000 more, will you be upset?
They will say.
I'm gonna keep pushing that number to find out what the number is that they won't be upset that they lost the property at. And that's the number we're writing. We're writing just under that. I'm pushing them. Where are you not gonna be upset that you lost it?
That should be something you ask every client. Because
Then they know, I don't want them to be upset with me. If I really got to them to their highest number and if they lose the number, if they lose it, you understand? Like,
Then it's not your fault.
I'm trying to push them.
that almost always works. I had a client that I kept telling them that for like 5-6 deals that we had to write. You should say that to every client you have.
What's the verbiage?
I like to say, what is the number where if we write at this, and if for whatever reason we lose, you're gonna be okay.
Yeah,
You're not gonna feel like you
that's
lost.
exactly the question.
Yeah. And again, whatever that number is, you know, and depending on what they say too, that also gives you a range that you're willing to play with. Because if I write under and then I get a counter best and highest, hey, they're countering best and highest, it's the number we're going up to, right? Is the number we feel, and you may see that goalpost change, but you always put it on them like, okay, if I submit here, this is you putting your best foot forward. If for whatever reason, maybe they just don't like us. Are you comfortable not getting this house at this dollar?
You know why I have this conversation? Because we'll write an offer for 1.1 and it sells for 1.2. And they say, I would have paid 1.2 for that. Right? That's why.
So this intercepts that conversation.
Yeah. Because they're like, I would have paid that.
Right.
And then they're upset.
Is 1.2.
Is 1.2 your
Would you be
best?
upset if
Exactly.
we
You'd be
lost
upset if
this?
you lost for 1.2 1/4.
Right.
Because you're gonna get counters that say highest and final. And they are going with the highest and final. That's it. And then that's when that conversation takes place.
And you absolutely can win with a lower offer if you're the right agent. I've done that before by a $200,000 difference. Just because of a phone call and I'm the guy and I can close quickly and this is what's lined up. Like I actually told him, this is how the next 15 days is gonna look and then we'll be done. He didn't offer $200,000 higher.
Relationships matter.
Yeah, it's not the conversation with the listing agent is really important and relaying that to the buyer is important. I do just want to go over a couple of forms really quick. We are on Monday, we're gonna do hands-on command database. We're gonna set up some stuff in command that'll enable you to email clients, building your database. There's also a buyer presentation in command that you can customize. So we're gonna also work on that Monday. So we're gonna do a lot of hands-on command technology stuff on Monday. There's just a couple of forms that I want to share real quick.
Already in our folder that you sent, right?
What? The forms?
Is that the form?
These forms are not in the
Oh,
folder.
okay.
I just want to create awareness that these forms exist because they're not used often, but I just want you to know that
What
they're.
is this site?
I'm signing into CAR.org.
Okay. Oh, okay.
I'm signing into CAR just to get our contracts. So I just want to talk about a couple of forms here.
Is the class on Monday gonna be recorded?
Yes, everything I do unfortunately is recorded.
Perfect. I can't attend, I have a doctor appointment, but I will rewatch it or watch it. Thank you. Lastly, where do we get the recorded classes?
There's a YouTube channel, I believe.
So
I haven't seen them on there, so.
I don't think anything that I'm doing has been uploaded to a public channel. It will be as we go through the next iteration of this. Right now, I guess we could start doing that. I'll talk to Sophia about it.
Sophia said you can email her also.
Yeah, if you email Sophia for a class, she'll send you a link to it.
Perfect. Thank you for that.
Right now, I'm just at car.org going into transaction forms. I want to talk about a situation where you have a listing or you have a listing and a buyer comes in, which will happen to your open house, and they're asking you all kinds of questions, like a lot of questions, and you're giving them a lot of information. You think that they're going to use you as the agent, and then all of a sudden an offer comes in from another agent with them. Not great. However, I want to make you aware of a form called buyer non-agency. So we have agency, which is part of our offer and part of our listing agreement. But there is a form here called buyer non-agency. Sometimes you, and there may be a buyer that, like, let's say you have a dangerous listing, you know that there's issues with this property. You're afraid that there could be potential lawsuits down the road. And you want to be very clear that you do not represent this buyer. You represent the seller only, not the buyer. For whatever reason, you just want to make sure the buyer understands you're not representing them. Here's the form to use. It's called a buyer non-agency agreement. And it just says the buyer is represented by a different broker or not represented by another broker. You know, the buyer sometimes is representing themselves, right? So there is a form for that. So I just wanted to make you guys aware of it. There's also a form called buyer material issues. This is an interesting one. The following are material issues to buyer regarding any property. Let's just look at this. Buyer obligation to disclose material issues. In accordance with the terms and conditions of the written and oral agreement between buyer and broker, buyer has agreed to notify broker in writing of any material issue to buyer, such as, but not limited to, buyer's request for information on or concerns regarding any issues or interest of importance to buyer. Sometimes you might get a buyer, again, I don't like to deal with anybody that I think is litigious. You know, someone starts mentioning lawsuits they're involved in, I'm out. I'm out, so far out.
As a buyer.
Refer that buyer to another agent and get a referral fee. Right? Don't take that on. There is nothing worth being in court or in a lawsuit. You will lose your hair. You won't eat. It's horrible. Like, we want to avoid lawsuits at all costs. If your buyer says to you something and you think this buyer might be litigious and they say to you, something is really important to me, and whatever that thing is, make sure it's documented, and then you don't have to worry about it. Like, if whatever it is, I just want you to know this form exists. If it ever crosses your mind, you know what, maybe this is something that I'm hearing right now, should be documented somehow. Here's a form for it. That's really, I just want to make you aware that there is a form.
Which form is this one, sorry?
That was buyer material issues. So obviously a seller has to disclose anything which is a material issue. Sellers have to disclose. This is one where if a buyer has an issue, it's a form for them to disclose whatever their issue is. So sometimes that can work. It's not a request for repair, but you might be talking to a listing agent about some issue with the property, and that form can also be used by the buyer saying, this is really an issue for me, whatever that issue is. So it's something that can be sent, and the listing agent can send it to their seller and saying, look, the buyer really is having a problem with this one thing, whatever that item is. And instead of using a request for repair form. So that's really it, because on Monday, we're going to go over a buyer presentation that's customizable, that we can send over email if we want to. That's really it. I have contracts online in the shared folder. Any other buyer questions, buyer issues that you guys want to, anything you think about? Working with buyers, I mean, basically, if they have money or they're talking to their lender, they're pre-approved, showing them property, writing the offer.
What about when they're out of state?
Out of state buyer.
Yeah.
So my question, my dialogue with an out of state buyer is, what's your timing? When are you coming here to look at something? If I'm a listing agent and there's an offer coming from an out-of-state buyer who has not seen the property in person, I might be very hesitant to accept an offer from that person, because they're going to be tying up the property. Basically, I'm in contract and I can't sell it to someone else. Because they could come off the plane, walk in and say, no, this isn't it. And then I just wasted all that time. So that's the conversation that I'm having with an out-of-state buyer. And everyone's different. Someone might say, I'm coming into town this weekend. But just be careful, don't be a tour guide.
Yeah.
There are people out there, as crazy as it sounds, they're gonna get a tour of LA, you know, just by calling you and saying, I'm interested in buying. There are people like this, they're not really buyers. They're gonna get in your car, they're gonna have a tour, they're gonna say, show me the most expensive houses. Who lives there, who lives there? They're gonna get a
One
free
way to
tour.
find out if they're serious is if they get pre-approved with somebody of your choice.
Okay, oh, of my choice, not their own lender?
I mean, it can be their own lender, but you want to cross-check that information.
All right, guys. Go. Tomorrow we're gonna do a listing presentation
At 11.
at 11. There is a class at 10.
No, there's.
They canceled it?
They did?
Really?
Yeah, I thought I had it in my schedule, but he was earlier here today and we're like, no, I don't have it. So-
Oh, he doesn't have it, but I'm gonna do it.
Oh, you're doing the class?
Yeah, I'm doing it.
Okay.
What time?
Oh, you were doing the 10
I'm
o'clock.
doing it. I'm doing 10 o'clock. I'm doing 10 o'clock on the 11th.
Okay.
What is it for, the 10 o'clock?
So it's mindful selling.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I'll be here at 10.
It's gonna be more scripts and
So
dialogue.
10 to 12, we have class with you 10 to 12.
Basically scripts and dialogue.
Oh, cool.
And how do we access the files on the drive?
This is like just.
Teacher is different.
Okay. On one way.
Yes, it's
Yeah. I'm gonna go.
client dashboard training.
You have time?
I did that, so that was just spinning.
Oh, then it's not cut off.
And you live close as well. I'm guessing.
Also, sorry.
And this is the second.
And you got any business cards?
How do we access the files on the drive?
Kind of like a business card. Check out your
So
phone.
Is that just?
I know, but I got this, list.
I have not, right now.
In fact, I just inquired about business cards today, so I'm gonna.
Yeah, someone took picture. I haven't do it. I go all the time,
Yeah,
I recognize it,
sometimes they
so
just
like,
have photographers, yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
yeah. On my PC,
This is a digital one that I have. You always point your camera at.
But you think that's a good idea.
Just point your camera at.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
There you go.
Yeah, because it's hard when you just go.
There you go.
Right on.
I have it in my calendar.
Yeah, see, it's like it's.
Sure, yeah.
It allows you.
So we talked about.
I was about to make one like by myself, so that's good to have.
A little bit. I should be in the complex now.
So when I,
Let's see if it works.
Recreation.
Let's go here.
People will always talk about family. They'll always talk about their words. Those are the things that you can initiate.
Contacts.
okay.
But
Okay,
you
yes.
want to get to a real estate.
Search for.
I'll come. I'll come do it.
So real estate conversation is like, do you have any plans for real estate?
Contact, type in our.
Do you have any plans for real estate?
Where did I say that?
Starts photo.
Are you currently here?
That way you know that they're having contacts already.
And when they, some of the stuff you were showing me, I still didn't understand it, so I wonder when you have some time.
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna be here almost every class.
I got my card, right?
I know.
Would you like to talk?
Thank
That's a great one.
So you and I was in class this
Those are
afternoon.
the conversations. So, and we'll be talking about.
I can show you why I have to rush home and I'll have like 20 minutes to present the voiceover. Because I have until 4 o'clock. I said, I can't do it. Okay, 4:30. They said, well, it's still 4 o'clock. Oh, okay.
You can find it. If you borrow.
No, I meant to the door knock.
Yeah,
two. In about an hour going to eat, are you got it somewhere close? So I can just- I'm not gonna leave for another.
What's MLS, right?
It's on MLS. It's on the MLS.
They're gonna talk about the MLS in about 2 o'clock.
In this office or somebody coming from the MLS?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. Somebody coming from somebody in this office.
So
sorry, my love.
But I would suggest just
Okay.
walking around, seeing who's talking real estate, speak, and just sit down and just listen to them.
685.
Okay, I'm here. Okay, great.
Can I get It's a restaurant right across the street. I'm gonna figure out from there.
Right. I'm here at midnight. Yeah, he's coming from there.
I'm sorry. I'm going myself in.
No, that's fine. No, it's fine. It's, yeah, I wasn't planning to like work or anything. I was just gonna get, let me get my computer.
Want to see the flyer engine? My door knocking flyer?
You know what? I'm having a,
And this is the.
with all my emails going to spam.
That's dope.
I mean, a serious issue. All my emails going to spam.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I really like that picture. Just so much, no. I like the picture, like your name.
Emails that I had deleted, but not.
Like it has all the right things.
I put.
I-
Change of the market can be
I have to say a lot of time in spam now,
complicated, right?
which I did yesterday.
Having the right agent that's. And then should. You don't see it possible. It's not to be complicated, but I know that. It's not with your.
That's what I'm spending time with now, and that just started happening yesterday or 2 days ago.
I think it sounds good.
I have been getting a lot of emails.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Honestly, I'm getting. So I'm aware of the situation and
Yeah,
I
I just
am,
wanted to know.
thank you. No, I'm going through my spam folder. It's sure it's there.
Yeah, because I'm looking for special.
Yeah. So anything that comes from kw.com.
What?
Looks good.
What's on from?
It's coming from.
I'm okay, thank you so much.
Like set on the filter for that. But I will add you to a filter.
It's going from, coming from MSN.
Right. I will set it over. Anything that goes to spam and I want to get emails. I'm creating a filter.
Only when I'm like stepping out.
So it's just a second. Yeah. Thank you for
Bye,
reminding me.
JJ.
The two.
We're gonna talk later about your release.
Yes,
Okay.
I gotta figure out time, but
We'll get
yeah.
it in.
Okay.
I'll interrupt your nap.
Yeah, exactly.
Simon. And thank you.
Thank you, JJ, I really appreciate it today, thank you.
All right, I hope something helped.
Yeah.
Like anything, if you can learn one thing that makes you money in a deal, it was worth it.
Yeah, because I told about my friend, it's basically he's trying to, like, he's just trying to like move out of his parents' house in Northridge and trying to find somewhere in the valley, some near to his work. And he also said that, yeah, his family is helping him.
Okay.
So, like, they're giving him giving
So
him.
he might not have had that conversation yet about
Yeah.
how much they're helping him. If someone might have said, I'll help you, but he didn't have an actual number put on it. That's possible. They didn't get into specifics.
No, he just said that I'm getting help from my parent already. The lender already got with the one I referred him to.
Okay.
And
Right, so is he the one getting the loan or is the parent?
he's the one. Yeah, he's the one getting the loan.
So I would just reach out to the lender and say, what was your last conversation?
Yeah.
What's the last conversation you had with that person?
Oh, we were just talking about like, what like what you doing now, update, like what's going on, are you still looking? He said, yeah, he said I'm still receiving your search from the MLS. I'm still